We live in a world filled with things beyond our control. It feels like everything can change in the blink of an eye. A careless comment, a misunderstanding, or simply a day that doesn't go as planned. Life seems to pass by, and we can't escape the feeling of being swept away by the whirlwind of events beyond our control. But have you ever asked yourself, is there a way I can stop being swept up in these things? Surely you've felt moments like this, haven't you? The feeling of being stuck, tired, or even lost. You've done everything you can, but it still feels like you can't escape the pressure from work, family, or even just harsh words from others. Now imagine a moment when nothing outside of you can affect you anymore. A moment where your soul is entirely free, light, and untouched by anything. Not the silence of indifference, but the stillness of a strong, unwavering mind that isn't swayed by emotions or situations. Can you find such peace? Can you live without being moved by the things around you? There is a way, and Buddhism holds the key. Hello, and welcome to Wisdom of the Buddha. Today we will explore a very important topic, one that could change the way you see life, and more importantly, how you can live a more peaceful and happier life. That topic is letting go. Not letting go of everything, but letting go of the things that don't deserve our energy or attention. Before we dive deeper into this lesson, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel. Like this video if you find this content helpful, and share it with those who might need it. Don't forget to comment below to share your thoughts, and let me know what topics you'd like to explore further in Buddhism. Your thoughts and questions are so valuable, and they motivate us to continue creating more meaningful content. So, where do we start? Are we perhaps carrying unnecessary burdens in life? And how can we find peace right within our own hearts? In this video, we will explore how to let go of control, not react to the world around us, and most importantly, how to live true to ourselves without letting society or anyone else define us. Let's begin this journey, not one of seeking externally, but one of rediscovering ourselves. 1. The illusion of control, letting go to find true freedom. Have you ever felt like you're desperately trying to hold on to everything in your life, but the harder you try, the more it slips through your fingers? Imagine trying to hold a stream of water in your hands. No matter how tightly you grip, the water just keeps flowing out. It's exhausting, isn't it? This is what happens when we try to control everything around us. Our work, our relationships, even the thoughts and feelings of others. But can we really control everything? This is the illusion of control, a concept deeply rooted in Buddhist philosophy. This doesn't mean we shouldn't have goals or plans in life, but it means recognizing that not everything is within our control. And only when we come to terms with this, we can truly experience freedom. Think of someone working in a high-pressure job, constantly juggling tasks, meetings, emails, and deadlines. She believes that the only way to succeed is by controlling every detail of her work. The more she tries to manage her schedule, the more unplanned events keep happening. Last-minute requests from colleagues, sudden changes in priorities, and unexpected challenges. Despite her best efforts, everything seems out of control, and she's left feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. This story is all too familiar for many of us. We often believe that if we could just manage every aspect of our lives, work, family, friendships, or even our own thoughts, then everything would be smooth sailing. But in truth, the very act of trying to control everything is what steals our peace. One of Buddha's core teachings is that attachment is the root of all suffering. We often attach ourselves to the idea that everything must go our way for us to feel safe and happy. But the truth is, life is constantly changing, and we can't control all of it. Buddha taught that true freedom comes not from control, but from letting go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means allowing ourselves to live in the present, free from the need to control the uncontrollable. True freedom arises when we understand that not everything will go according to our plan. And that's the beauty of life, the unpredictability, the imperfection, and the natural flow. Imagine trying to hold on to something that constantly slips away, perhaps a relationship or a career goal that you just can't seem to make work, no matter how hard you try. The more you grip it, the more it resists. Now imagine releasing that grip, letting it go with acceptance. Suddenly you're no longer tied to it. You don't lose the things that are meant for you, but you free yourself from the emotional burden of trying to force them. This simple act of letting go is not about resignation, it's about trusting the process. The moment you stop trying to control everything, you make space for life to unfold naturally. True peace emerges not when we manage every detail, but when we surrender to life as it is. So, what happens when we let go of control? Does it mean we stop living with purpose? No, in fact, letting go brings us closer to our inner strength and true freedom. When we release the need to control, we find peace, even in uncertainty. But how do we begin the process of letting go? How do we stop controlling and start living with intention? To understand that, let's explore the next step, the power of detachment, breaking free from emotional puppetry. 2. The power of detachment, breaking free from emotional puppetry. Have you ever felt like you're a puppet in your own life, reacting to every emotional trigger thrown at you by someone else? A harsh word, a cold glance, or even a silent treatment can disrupt your inner peace, leaving you feeling powerless. You might wonder, is it even possible to live without letting the emotions of others control me? Detachment isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about the freedom of mind, where you are no longer pulled by every emotional reaction from the outside. Detachment is the key to freeing yourself from emotional puppetry, allowing you to live authentically and find lasting peace within. Imagine you're at work and you receive a critical comment from your boss or a colleague. Instantly, your mind starts racing. How unfair it is, how upset you are, and how much you want to react. But what if, instead of immediately reacting, you pause for a moment and ask yourself, is this really worth my emotional energy? You'd realize that the criticism, while perhaps painful, doesn't define your worth. It's just a fleeting reaction, not the truth about who you are. Now picture a different scenario, a relationship where you feel emotionally attached to the approval of your partner. Every word or action they take can either lift you up or bring you down. But when you practice detachment, you stop seeking validation from them. You realize that your happiness doesn't depend on anyone else's actions or words. You are no longer emotionally controlled by others, and this allows you to experience relationships in a more peaceful, balanced way. Here's a small but powerful lesson. Letting go does not mean giving up. In fact, the Buddha teaches us that letting go is the path to true freedom. When you practice detachment, you are not abandoning life or your relationships. Instead, you are engaging with them without being emotionally enslaved by them. Next time you feel the urge to react, whether it's anger, frustration, or even sadness, try taking a deep breath and reminding yourself that these feelings are temporary. They are like waves in the ocean. They rise and they fall. By practicing detachment, you allow those waves to come and go without them pulling you under. Imagine trying to hold on to something that's slipping away, like trying to keep a flower that's wilting in your hand. The tighter you hold it, the more it suffers. But if you gently let go, you allow the flower to be free. This is what detachment is about, not rejecting life or relationships, but allowing them to flow without holding on too tightly. True detachment brings peace because it helps you live in the moment without being tied to outcomes. This simple shift in perspective, choosing not to react to every emotional trigger, is one of the most liberating practices you can adopt. It frees you from emotional chaos and gives you control over your own energy. The power of detachment is not about shutting yourself off. It's about living fully without letting external circumstances dictate your inner state. So what happens when you begin to practice detachment in your life? Does it make you numb or indifferent? No, in fact, it empowers you to live more fully, connecting deeply with yourself while remaining unshaken by the turbulence around you. By letting go of emotional reactions, you create space for clarity, peace, and authentic connection. But how do we truly let go of the need to control and be controlled by others? Let's explore that in the next section. The storm in the sky, understanding non-reactivity in daily life. 3. The storm in the sky, understanding non-reactivity in daily life. In life, our emotions can sometimes feel like powerful storms that throw everything into chaos. The stress from work, conflicts in relationships, or unexpected situations can easily make us angry, frustrated, or anxious. But have you ever wondered, Is it possible to live without reacting to these negative emotions? Can we maintain calm even in the middle of a storm? That is the power of non-reactivity. Non-reactivity doesn't mean turning off our emotions. It doesn't mean we become cold or indifferent to what's happening around us. On the contrary, non-reactivity is the ability to recognize and accept our emotions without allowing them to dictate our actions. When you choose not to react to your emotions, you stop letting them control your decisions and actions. Imagine your mind as the sky. The storms are your emotions, thoughts, and the events around you. The storm can cause everything to feel chaotic, but the sky, which is always there, remains calm and still, unaffected by the storm. Non-reactivity is realizing that you are not the storm, but the sky, calm and composed beneath the turbulent waves. Here's a real-life example. You're driving on the road, and suddenly someone cuts you off. Immediately, a surge of anger arises. You might feel offended, want to shout, or retaliate. But if you pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, is this really worth my anger? You'll realize that this anger is just a momentary reaction, unnecessary and unhelpful. By choosing not to react, you gain control over your emotions and keep your peace of mind intact. Another example could be in family arguments. Instead of immediately reacting to hurtful words, you can choose to sit back, listen, and ask yourself whether you can respond calmly or whether you're letting the words take control. Choosing not to react right away doesn't mean you're losing the argument. It means you're controlling yourself and creating space for the truth to be addressed more reasonably. The small lesson here is, calmness is not silence, but the strength to not react to provocation. When you don't let negative situations shake you, you'll realize that you are not a victim of your emotions. In fact, non-reactivity is the key to freeing yourself from the domination of emotions and external circumstances. Try this in your own life. Every time you encounter a tense situation, instead of reacting immediately, pause and check in with your emotions. Take a few seconds to breathe, observe, and allow yourself to choose how to respond from a place of calm, unaffected by fleeting emotions. This not only helps you maintain your peace, but also helps make your relationships and work environments more harmonious. When you start practicing non-reactivity, life gradually becomes lighter. You'll feel the freedom in your mind, no longer bound by momentary emotions. But to truly achieve peace in life, we must continue our journey. So, how do we live in this world without getting swept up by the pursuit of perfection? How can we accept that life will always have unpredictable twists and turns? To explore the answer, let's move on to the next section, the attachment to approval, breaking the chains of social conditioning. 4. The attachment to approval, breaking the chains of social conditioning. In today's society, there is one thing that almost all of us experience: the craving for approval, the desire to be praised and appreciated. We chase after the approval of others, our friends, our families, and even strangers we don't know. But have you ever asked yourself, does the approval of others really matter that much? Does the validation from others bring you happiness, or is it just an invisible burden that you carry every day? The craving for approval is one of the most emotionally dependent forms of attachment we can encounter in life. When you live just to meet the expectations of others, you unknowingly become a puppet, no longer free in your own life. Not only does this exhaust you, but it also causes you to lose your true essence. We are not born to live someone else's life. Society and the media have taught us that in order to be loved and successful, we must live by standards set by others. But when you stop living for the approval of others, you will realize that you are the one who has the power to decide your own life. Only when you stop seeking approval from the outside can you find true freedom from within. Imagine an artist wanting to create music. If they live only to please the masses, they will compose according to trending melodies, the kind that everyone likes. But if they decide to create music that comes from their heart, without worrying about what others think, they will find true freedom in their art and connect deeply with themselves. Those works won't just resonate with listeners, but will authentically reflect who they are. Similarly, in daily life, how many times have you done something just because you feared others wouldn't approve? It could be choosing a career, selecting friends, or even how you present yourself on social media. The fear of not being accepted can cause you to lose yourself, and it only leaves you feeling emptier than before. The small lesson here is other people's approval doesn't define your worth. Your value comes from who you are, from what you feel deep inside, not from compliments or validation from society. In fact, when you stop seeking approval, you start living your authentic life. Try this practice in the coming week. Whenever you feel you're doing something just to be accepted, pause and ask yourself, am I doing this for myself? Allow yourself to do what you truly want without needing anyone's approval, and you will realize that this freedom is the peace you've been seeking. When you begin to let go of the craving for approval from others, you'll feel lighter, more authentic, and more complete. But how do we maintain this freedom in a world filled with unrealistic expectations? How do we truly live in freedom without getting swept up by the chase for perfection? Let's explore this together in the next section, The Art of Letting Go, Non-Attachment as a Path to Inner Peace. 5. The Art of Letting Go, Non-Attachment as a Path to Inner Peace. Have you ever felt like you're holding on to too much, whether it's your job, relationships, or even the weight of your future expectations? At times, it seems like if we just hang on tight enough, we'll find the safety and happiness we seek. But what if, by clinging to all these things, we're actually making ourselves heavier, not lighter? What if letting go could actually bring us the peace we're desperately looking for? This isn't just about giving up. It's about understanding that the things we try to control or hold on to may not be meant for us anymore. It's the freedom that comes with surrendering the weight and finding peace in simply being present. The Buddha taught us that letting go is not about abandoning everything, but about freeing ourselves from the need to hold on to things that no longer serve us. Non-attachment, in Buddhist terms, doesn't mean indifference or disinterest. It means freedom from the emotional burdens that come with excessive attachment. Letting go creates space for growth, for new experiences, and for peace to flow freely in our lives. Imagine holding a stone in your hand. The longer you grip it, the heavier it feels, and the more your hand hurts. But when you finally release it, you experience a sense of relief and lightness. This is what letting go feels like. By releasing what we cannot control, whether it's our past, our failures, or our expectations, we create room for our hearts and minds to breathe. Consider the example of someone holding on to a relationship that has long lost its warmth. They may stay in the relationship out of fear of being alone, or out of hope that things will improve if they try harder. But the truth is, holding on to this relationship only drains their emotional energy. When they decide to let go, they might feel the sadness of loss initially, but eventually they realize that freedom and peace come from stepping away from what no longer nurtures them. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning love, but making space for a love that is truly aligned with their well-being. Or think about someone who is constantly striving for perfection in their job or personal life. They work tirelessly to meet unrealistic standards, only to find themselves feeling stressed, anxious, and unfulfilled. The desire for perfection is a form of attachment to an ideal that will never be fully realized. When this person begins to let go of the need for perfection, they free themselves to experience life as it is, beautifully imperfect. The small lesson here is, letting go isn't about giving up. It's about freeing yourself from the heavy burden of attachment. When you stop gripping tightly to what isn't meant for you, you allow yourself to embrace what truly matters. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care enough to let go of the things that drain your energy and limit your growth. So take a moment and think about something you're holding on to in your life. Perhaps a relationship, a job, or even a particular idea of who you should be. What would it feel like to gently release your grip on that thing? Letting go doesn't mean neglecting it. It just means trusting that whatever is meant for you will come without needing to control or force it. As you practice the art of letting go, life starts to feel lighter, more manageable, and filled with new possibilities. But it's not just about releasing attachments. It's also about how we engage with life and accept the imperfections that come with it. What happens when we stop chasing after the perfect version of ourselves or our lives? How do we learn to embrace the messy, unpredictable flow of life? Let's explore this further in the next section. Emotional non-reactivity, cultivating the strength of stillness. 6. Emotional non-reactivity, cultivating the strength of stillness. Imagine a day where everything seems to go wrong. Someone cuts you off in traffic, your colleague gives you a harsh critique, your friend forgets to return your call. It's like being constantly bombarded, like waves crashing against the shore. In moments like these, it's easy to feel swept away by the emotions that rise within us. But what if, in those very moments of tension, you could choose to stay grounded, calm, and at peace? What if you could break free from the cycle of immediate reactions and create space between your emotions and your actions? This is the power of emotional non-reactivity. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about allowing yourself the space to experience them without letting them control you. Emotional non-reactivity means that you acknowledge your emotions without being driven by them. It's about creating a gap between the stimulus, whether it's someone's rude comment or a stressful situation, and your response. In Buddhism, this is often likened to watching your thoughts and feelings as clouds drifting across the sky. The sky is unmovable, despite the passing clouds. Similarly, you are the stillness beneath your emotional storms, observing them without getting swept up in them. Non-reactivity doesn't mean being indifferent. Rather, it's about finding your center amidst the chaos and choosing how to respond, rather than reacting impulsively. It's the art of observing your emotions as passing phenomena, knowing that, just like the clouds, they will pass, and you don't need to chase or be caught by them. Let's take a common example, a heated argument with a loved one. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to say something hurtful or to raise your voice, especially when emotions are running high. But imagine, instead of reacting immediately, you pause for just a few seconds. You take a deep breath. You observe the rising anger, but you don't act on it. Instead, you choose to speak calmly and with intention. In this pause, you take control of your emotional response, allowing the conversation to stay constructive instead of escalating into conflict. Another example might be in the workplace. Perhaps your boss criticizes you in front of your colleagues. The immediate impulse might be to defend yourself or to become defensive. However, if you practice non-reactivity, you choose to listen, process the feedback, and respond thoughtfully later when your emotions aren't in control. This not only helps you remain composed, but shows your emotional maturity. In both examples, emotional non-reactivity doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means acknowledging your emotional response, but taking the power back by choosing how you want to act. Here's the small lesson. True strength lies in choosing your response, not in reacting impulsively. When we stop allowing our emotions to control us, we reclaim our power and inner peace. The practice of emotional non-reactivity allows us to live with intention, not reaction. Next time you feel triggered, pause for a moment. Instead of immediately reacting, take a deep breath and ask yourself, how do I want to respond? This simple act of slowing down creates the space for you to align your actions with your values, rather than simply reacting from a place of emotional impulse. As you begin to practice emotional non-reactivity, you will notice a sense of freedom and lightness in your life. You will feel less burdened by external circumstances and more at peace with yourself. But emotional freedom doesn't stop at non-reactivity. It also involves releasing our attachment to outcomes and embracing the flow of life as it comes. What happens when we stop chasing perfection and let life unfold as it is? Let's dive into this in the next section. The myth of perfection, embracing imperfection and the flow of life. 7. The myth of perfection, embracing imperfection and the flow of life. We are all familiar with the pressure to be perfect. In our modern world, success is often measured by flawless achievement, perfect careers, perfect relationships, perfect social media profiles. But here's the question. Is perfection really necessary for happiness and fulfillment? Is it possible to embrace imperfection and still live a full, meaningful life? Let's pause for a moment and consider, what if the very pursuit of perfection is what keeps us from finding true peace? What if, instead of striving for an unattainable ideal, we embrace the beauty of imperfection, allowing life to flow naturally with all its bumps and turns? The pursuit of perfection is often driven by fear, the fear of not being enough, We're conditioned to think that unless we meet these impossible standards, we'll fall short, fail, or be rejected. But perfection is a myth. It's an illusion. Everything in life is impermanent, and trying to make it perfect is a form of resistance to the natural flow of life. In Buddhist philosophy, everything is seen as transient, including our ideas of what is perfect. Life is not meant to be a series of flawless moments, but a continuous unfolding of experiences, some smooth, others rocky. When we learn to let go of the need for perfection, we open ourselves to a deeper, more authentic experience of life. The freedom to accept imperfection is the true path to inner peace. Think about a time when you worked tirelessly on something. Maybe it was a project at work or a family gathering you wanted to be just right. You meticulously planned every detail, only to find that things didn't go exactly as you hoped. Perhaps the food was late or your speech didn't go as planned. At that moment, you may have felt disappointed or even defeated. But instead of focusing on the imperfection, what if you could see the beauty in it? Maybe the gathering turned into a memory because of the unscripted moments of laughter. Maybe the project, though not perfect, led to a new realization or connection. These imperfections, as frustrating as they may seem in the moment, often bring unexpected joy and meaning into our lives. The truth is, life is about the journey, not the destination, and it's the imperfections that make the journey meaningful. The lesson here is simple. Perfection is a myth, but imperfection is the essence of life. Embracing imperfection doesn't mean giving up or settling for mediocrity. It means accepting that life is messy and unpredictable, and that's okay. The more we let go of our need to control everything, the more we open ourselves to new possibilities, joy, and creativity. Start practicing this by letting go of your expectations in small, everyday moments. Maybe it's letting a conversation flow without worrying about saying the right thing, or allowing your work to be good enough instead of perfect. When you stop striving for perfection, you give yourself permission to truly live without the weight of unattainable standards. As we learn to embrace imperfection, we begin to experience the freedom of letting life flow as it is. But there's another layer to this, knowing when to let go of things that drain our energy and stop us from moving forward. What happens when we stop holding on to everything? People, situations, outcomes. How can we free ourselves from things that no longer serve us? Let's dive deeper into this in the next section. Reclaiming your energy, walking away from draining situations. 8. Reclaiming your energy, walking away from draining situations. We all have moments where we feel emotionally drained, not because we're physically tired, but because we've been pouring ourselves into situations, relationships, or tasks that leave us feeling empty. Whether it's endless arguments that go nowhere, toxic friendships that pull us down, or overwhelming work demands, we've all been there. But here's the question: how do we reclaim our energy in such draining situations? What if the key to protecting our mental peace isn't fighting harder, but knowing when it's time to walk away? In our busy, fast-paced world, we often feel like we must stick with every situation, every relationship, every responsibility, even when they drain us. We feel obligated to fight every battle, to prove we can handle it all. But what if walking away is not an act of defeat, but a form of strength? Walking away doesn't mean giving up. It means knowing when something no longer serves you and freeing yourself from its grip. Buddhism teaches us the power of detachment, not as a rejection of life, but as a recognition of what no longer aligns with our higher self. It's about stepping away from toxic environments, relationships, or situations that sap your energy, and making space for what nourishes your soul. We often believe that to show strength, we must keep pushing, keep fighting. But true strength lies in knowing when to release, to let go of the things that weigh you down and walk away, not out of frustration or defeat, but out of a conscious choice for your well-being. Imagine a person stuck in a job they hate, but they keep showing up day after day because they feel they should, to earn a paycheck, to meet expectations, to avoid disappointing others. They're constantly stressed, drained, and have no room for personal growth. Eventually, they reach a breaking point. The energy they've been giving to this job has drained them completely, leaving no space for joy, creativity, or connection with others. But what if one day they decided to step back and reconsider? What if they walked away, not in anger or frustration, but with the understanding that their energy is too precious to waste on something that no longer serves them? By choosing to leave, they create space for new opportunities, a job that aligns with their passions, or time to focus on their mental health. This isn't about avoiding challenges. It's about choosing to redirect energy toward what will help them grow. Another example is in friendships. Maybe you have a friend who constantly drains you with their negativity or demands, leaving you feeling exhausted after every interaction. Over time, this relationship takes a toll on your well-being. Walking away from this friendship, even if it feels difficult, doesn't make you heartless. It's an act of self-care. By stepping back, you are giving yourself the freedom to foster relationships that uplift and support you. The small lesson here is simple yet profound. Recognizing when to walk away is a powerful act of self-preservation. It's a way of showing love for yourself. You don't need to stay in situations that drain you just because you feel obligated. Walking away isn't weakness. It's the ultimate strength. It's a way of saying, I choose me. Next time you're in a situation that's depleting you, take a moment to ask yourself, is this really worth my time and energy? Is this serving my growth? If it's not, don't hesitate to walk away. It's okay to say no to things, people, and situations that no longer nourish you. When you start practicing the art of walking away from what drains you, you'll begin to feel lighter, more at ease, and better equipped to face the challenges life brings. But to truly maintain inner peace, we must also learn to embrace a different kind of strength, the strength of silence. How does silence empower us to protect our peace? Let's explore this in the next section. Silence as strength, the power of non-reaction in a chaotic world. 9. Silence as strength, the power of non-reaction in a chaotic world. In a world full of noise and chaos, we often feel compelled to react, to defend ourselves, to argue, to prove a point. Whether it's a harsh comment, a disagreement, or an unexpected challenge, our first instinct is usually to react, to say something, to do something. But what if I told you that sometimes the most powerful reaction is no reaction at all? Silence is not weakness. In fact, it is one of the most profound strengths you can cultivate. Non-reaction is the ability to remain calm and composed, to maintain your inner peace despite the turmoil around you. In Buddhism, this is a crucial practice, not just to maintain personal peace, but to create space for clarity and wisdom. In silence, there is strength. So how can we learn to embrace silence, to let go of the need to react immediately, and in turn, reclaim our peace in a chaotic world? Non-reaction, or choosing not to react impulsively, doesn't mean we are indifferent or cold. It means we recognize the power of pausing before responding. It's about not letting external circumstances dictate our internal state. Life will always throw challenges our way, but our reactions to those challenges are within our control. Non-reaction is not about suppressing emotions. It's about allowing those emotions to come and go without letting them control us. Imagine your mind is like a vast sky. Life's stresses, other people's words, difficult situations are like storms that pass through this sky. The storm might be loud and fierce, but the sky remains unchanged and ever present. Non-reaction is the practice of becoming the sky, remaining calm and unaffected by the storm around you. Let me share a real-life example. Think about a time when you were caught in an argument, maybe with a colleague or a friend. The other person says something hurtful, and immediately you feel your emotions rising. Anger, frustration, defensiveness. The immediate instinct might be to fire back with a harsh word, to defend yourself, to win the argument. But what happens when you resist the urge to react? Imagine, instead of responding instantly, you take a deep breath, count to 5, and give yourself a moment to pause. Instead of speaking from your emotions, you choose to stay silent for a moment, just observing how you feel. In that space of silence, you allow the emotional storm to pass without getting swept away by it. Suddenly, the tension in the conversation begins to subside. By not reacting impulsively, you create a moment of clarity. And now, when you speak, your words are calm, measured, and rooted in understanding, not in defensiveness. This simple act of non-reaction allows you to regain control, keeping your peace intact, rather than getting lost in the chaos. The small lesson here is, silence is not an absence, it's a powerful presence. When we choose silence instead of reaction, we reclaim our power. We realize that we don't need to prove ourselves, defend ourselves, or get swept up in every emotional storm. True strength lies in restraint, in knowing when to stay silent, to pause, and to give ourselves time to respond with intention. Think of silence as a tool for protecting your energy. Every time you resist the urge to react, you're not just avoiding conflict. You're choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion. Now, when you start practicing non-reaction, you'll find that you're able to maintain your inner peace more easily. But there's more to maintaining that peace in our hectic lives. What about perfection? Society often pushes us to strive for perfection, to be flawless, to always be at our best. But what if the pursuit of perfection is actually an illusion? Let's explore that in the next part. Living from your core, authenticity versus societal expectations. 10. Living from your core, authenticity versus societal expectations. In modern life, we are constantly faced with a series of expectations from family, friends, and society. These standards often make us feel as though we must constantly strive to meet an idealized version of success, from career achievements to physical appearances and an abundance of material possessions. But when we look at these accomplishments, one question inevitably arises. Am I living my own life, or am I just living up to the expectations of others? Authenticity, or living true to oneself, means living according to your own values and passions without being bound by external standards. It's about doing what brings you joy, living by your own principles, and not seeking validation from others. Society, on the other hand, constantly pushes us into a race for ever-changing ideals, and as we chase these expectations, we often lose sight of who we truly are. Buddhism teaches that true peace comes from living authentically, not from meeting society's demands. When you live authentically, you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone, because your own value and essence are strong enough to bring inner peace. Living authentically may not always be easy, but it is through this path that we find true freedom. Imagine you are Sarah, a young person who has poured all of your energy into a job that you aren't truly passionate about. Sarah strives to achieve a model of success in the eyes of her family and society, taking on large projects and always aiming to be excellent in everything she does. Yet, despite all her accomplishments, she feels empty, lacking joy and fulfillment. Each day, she feels as though her life is no longer her own. After a long period of struggling, she decides to stop and reflect. Am I living my life, or am I just living to please others? Sarah realizes that she isn't happy with the job she's doing, so she decides to leave behind projects that no longer align with her true desires and search for something that will bring her genuine happiness. She finds a new job, not for the recognition or prestige, but because it brings her joy and freedom. The lesson here is, only when you live authentically do you find true freedom and peace. Don't live by the standards of others, because peace doesn't come from achieving what society expects of you. Peace comes from accepting and loving yourself, imperfections and all. Try taking a moment to ask yourself, who am I living for? You might realize that, to find happiness, all you need is to live in a way that aligns with what makes you happy and what feels meaningful to you. As you begin living from your core, life will feel lighter. You will no longer be swept up in societal standards, and you'll experience the freedom that comes from no longer living for the approval of others. But to truly live freely, we must embrace the imperfections of life. Because life doesn't always go as planned, and it's these imperfections that make up an essential part of our journey. Thank you so much for joining me in this journey today at Wisdom of the Buddha. We've explored profound topics like letting go of control, embracing detachment, practicing non-reaction, and living authentically, all aiming to help us cultivate peace and freedom in our lives. Remember, the key to true happiness and inner peace lies not in chasing perfection or meeting external expectations, but in embracing life as it is, with all its beautiful imperfections. If you found this content helpful and inspiring, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Like if you feel these teachings resonate with you, and share with those who may benefit from these insights. Your support helps us continue creating content that can bring peace and wisdom into the lives of many. If you have any thoughts or would like to suggest a topic for the next video, please feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear from you and explore more topics together. Thank you for watching, and may your journey towards inner peace be filled with clarity, joy, and freedom.